طيب. بسم الله. الحمد لله. الحمد لله رب العالمين. له النعمة وله الفضل وله الثناء الحسن. الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين. I ask Allah, the Exalted, to grant us all the sincerest of intentions, the ability to understand and to do good, and the reward in the hereafter. Thereafter, in last week's review, we were looking at among the ways in which Shaitan plays games with people. And I'm going to continue that in this particular lesson to go into that in a bit more detail before we move on to other aspects of this particular topic. Now, one of the things that I wanted to just touch upon here, and I'm going to come back to it also again later on, is that a key thing that Shaitan, the Qareen, plays on is fear. Fear that people have, and I mentioned this also in the past, that fear of something bad that would happen to a person. Either loss of health, wealth, loved ones, or the loss of one's iman, and the consequences that that would bring for a person on the Day of Judgment. So, in that regard, let it be known that the fear that we are encouraged to have and that would help a person get to a good ending is not the fear that is associated with panic attacks. The Prophet ﷺ and the pious people, they feared Allah and they were obedient to Allah and acquired a high status in their level of obedience. Their fear was not one of panic attacks, because the fear that these people, pious people, had and have is a fear that is founded upon knowledge and its implementation. Not a fear that is disconnected from religious knowledge and its implementation. Many people, when they have their panic attacks, they are not referring to the belief that whatever Allah has willed to be shall be in the way that one ought to. If the entire creation got together to harm one, they would not be able to harm us if Allah has not eternally willed for that harm to reach us. This is something important that one needs to go back to time and time again. Anyway, to continue talking about the what if games that Shaitan plays with us. So as a reminder, every one of us has a Qareen with them. Allah gave this Qareen, which is a jinn, the ability to whisper to us, which, as I said, it is like a voice that you then hear on the inside, similar to as though you were talking to yourself. So, for example, a spontaneous thought or a waswasa comes to a person. What's a spontaneous thought? A spontaneous thought is a thought that suddenly comes to you outside of your control. You're sitting there and all of a sudden you get this thought. You get this thing, if you like, inside yourself, like a voice These in Arabic are called khawatir. Okay? The word khatir is singular, khawatir, the plural of that. So you might get it as a spontaneous thought, and it might come as a was-wāsa, was-wās from the devil. You do not actually need to know which one was it. What you need to be aware of is, how do I deal with that issue once it's occurred? Is that flickering behind me? Or quite a bit, or let's just try doing something else. See if this works. So you do not need to know which one it is. Is it a khatir, or is this actually was-wās? What you need to do is know how to respond to either one of them, i.e., that which is against the rules of the religion, whether it is a khatir, whether it was a was-wāsa. You hate it, okay? You hate it, and you do not act in accordance with it. Technology, mashallah. Bear with me. If not, we have to just manage without it, because I don't spend long on it. MashaAllah, okay. It's ended up worse than before, isn't it? Okay. طيب, as I was saying then, and you do not need to know whether it was a was-wās or it was a khatir. Whatever is occurring to you of those two matters, it's not something that's in your control. And as a result of that, you are not actually accountable for it. That's what you need to be really conscious of, that you are not accountable for what would be occurring to you outside of your control. Okay? See what's happened now? Where is it? Above? That one. Can you see the screen now? Something, okay. No. MashaAllah, okay, just ignore it. I have to discontinue, I'm sorry. So, if you get a bad, sudden, spontaneous thought, or it is actually a waswasa from shaitan, you need to just learn to ignore it, regardless of what the actual origin of it is. Okay, regardless of what the origin of it is, you just need to learn to ignore. Now, in this particular case that I was going to review with yourselves, a person, for example, they get a sudden thought, a waswasa. how many arkan are there in the prayer? Okay. The person, he starts to think about it. And then he says, let's say in the Hanafi school, he says 6, or the Shafi'i school 17, whichever case example you want to take. The Qareen then, for example, whispers, are you sure it is 6? The person thinks of it and says, yes, it's 6. The Qareen says, are you sure? Like really sure it is 6? The person, he thinks a bit more and he says, yeah, there are 6 arkan for the prayer. The Qareen whispers to him again, like, are you really, really sure? Okay, what if you're mistaken? What if it's not? What if you didn't learn properly? What if you missed something? Maybe you're saying they are 6, but they're not really 6. So then, because the Qareen, he engaged the Qareen in this whisper, and the Qareen continued to make them question them and then to try to make them doubt until the person, they start to doubt. Maybe I've got it wrong. The Qareen then comes back to them and says, are you doubting? Are you doubting? You are doubting. You're actually doubting now about an integral of the prayer. You're doubting about something that's a part of the religion. So therefore, you are doubting about the religion. And the Qareen knows how to play with that person, ultimately trying to get them to waste their time, to get them into an afraid state, get them into a panicked state. And it has an intention by all of that, to get them into this state by which I'm going to cause them more harm. So, as I said, for example, this Qareen then might say, you doubted about the integrals, and the integrals are a part of the religion. So it's like you're doubting about the religion, and doubting about such a thing would be kufr. So the person's now panicked. Qareen continues, whatever it is kufr and you don't repent, and you die in that state, say the testification of faith, because you've doubted about the religion. So the heart rate now is going with the person. They're not thinking the way that they ought to think. The Qareen whispers again, are you sure you even doubted? What if you didn't doubt? In which case, that thing that you thought is kufr is not really kufr. In which case, actually, you've judged yourself wrongly to be a kafir, or potentially to be a kafir. In which case, this is also potentially kufr. And it goes on and on. Even if you're not following all of these, like, what's the issue here? The problem here is you've engaged it in dialogue, and it's adding to you case upon case upon case upon case. If a person believed that there are 7 integrals of the prayer, mistakenly, either because they misrecalled, misunderstood, but they thought that in the religion there are 7 integrals of the prayer. Okay? Even if they are mistaken, this is not kufr. This is not kufr. Even if then a bit later they said there are 7, they said actually no, there are 6. And then they said actually there are 7. No, there are 6. In each of those cases, when they said that, they believed this is what the religion of Islam says. And it is not something you can know with your intellect. And it's not something that's mentioned in the testifications of faith. It's not mentioned in the statements, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It's not mentioned explicitly within that. So therefore, by you being actually mistaken about it, it would not be kufr. That's the knowledge that you need to refer back to. Whether you think there are 6 or 7, or you go between those two issues, it's not kufr. But you know what? You don't even need that knowledge to have saved you from this issue. There is something else which is going to be the focus of the bulk of today's lesson. I'm sharing that with you just so that it's a review of another aspect of knowledge. That's not my intention to review the rules of what is kufr and what is not kufr as part of this session. For a benefit, I mentioned that. Okay? So look at that scenario again. We said the Qareen whispers, or it's just a thought, comes to a person. It's not like you're actively reviewing religious knowledge. Sometimes you're reviewing something in religious knowledge and you are reflecting upon something. Here it's not like that. You're sitting there, all of a sudden you get this question in your mind. How many arkan are there of the prayer? What are the fara'id of the prayer? Or of wudu, as the case might be. Suddenly you get this thought. It could be from shaitan, and it could be a sudden spontaneous thought. The person, as I said, they go further with it. They say there are 6 fara'id of the prayer. The Qareen whispers, are you sure it is 6? The person says, yes. The Qareen says, are you really sure about this issue? What if it's not 6? What if you didn't learn properly? What if you misunderstood? What if you're misrecalling? What if you missed something? Maybe you're saying they are 6 and they're not really 6. Are you still not sure they are 6? So the person, they start to doubt about the issue. As I said, then the Qareen comes back to them, and it will be usually looking for facial expressions. On the look of the person, they will see a bit of fear. I mentioned last week that there are people who are really good at reading body language. And some of them might even give you the impression they can know what you're thinking. And they're just reading your body language and guessing. The Qareen is an expert in this. It's been with us since our early childhood, monitoring what we are, if you like, doing, reacting to, and so on else. And it will play off this issue. It will play off this issue. So, for example, then the Qareen continues that shaitan and says, are you doubting? You are doubting. You are doubting. You are. And the person, yes, okay, I'm doubting now. Then it goes on to another issue. You're doubting about an integral of the prayer. The prayer is a part of the religion. And also usually it will go like this because the person's worried and they're not going to be thinking the way that they ought to. It might say to them, you're doubting about something that's a part of the religion. It's like you doubted about the religion. This is not doubting about the religion. You think, for example, this is what the religion says, i.e. there are 6 or 7. That's what you believe the religion says. And it's not something you can know from your intellect. Not something you can know from your intellect, and nor is it mentioned in the basic testifications of faith. So you are not negating something that is considered an absolute base of the religion. Rather, you think this is what Islam says. And that's why you're saying maybe there are 6 or maybe there are 7 or whatever you are doubting about. So this is what? Not kufr. Is that clear? It's not kufr. Shaitan, though, what does he do? He said, you doubted about something to do with the religion. You're doubting about the religion. And this is kufr. What if you've fallen into kufr? What if it is kufr? And what if you die like this and you go to hellfire forever? And you can imagine now the heart, how it is racing. More and more panic. Eventually, the Qareen might push them to say a testification of faith. So they say a testification of faith, thinking that they doubted about the correctness of Islam. Saying that testification of faith in that situation is not kufr. It's not kufr. But the Qareen then goes with them further. The Qareen says to them, are you actually sure you even doubted? Are you sure you even doubted? Takes them back. Look, guys, playing with them backwards and forwards with their emotions. What if you now did not doubt and you thought it was a doubt, but really it wasn't a doubt? You've said the testification of faith to embrace Islam. So therefore, you judged yourself to be a kafir. Right? You judged yourself to be a kafir. Wrongly judging a Muslim to be a kafir could be kufr. And that's true. Sometimes it could be kufr. So the Qareen says, well, maybe in this case, you wrongly judged yourself to be a kafir, whilst it wasn't kufr. And this in itself is kufr. So now you need to take another testification of faith for wrongly having doubted, because really you shouldn't have taken it in the first place because it wasn't really a doubt or whatever. It's going like this, on and on. Adding anxiety, panic, taking the person backwards and forwards, left and right. What if? And this person, no, I'm not going to think about this now. Shaitan, what if? What if it is? What if you did consider yourself to be a kafir wrongly and you fell out of Islam? If you don't say a testification of faith and you die in this state, what if you die upon kufr? And that again, that panic and that anxiety, it is there. Driving the person to just dwell upon this issue and maybe now take another testification of faith. And then it continues with the person like this. What if actually you are right to have taken a testification of faith originally, and the second one is now wrong? You should have taken this one. And actually you called yourself a kafir in the second case and not the first case. Or actually, no. Really? You were doubting and you delayed in taking the testification of faith. Whilst doubting, you might have fallen into kufr. Delaying taking the testification of faith whilst you are doubting about having fallen into kufr or not. This is like you accepted for yourself to be on kufr for a period of time. You delayed. You delayed. No, I didn't delay. You delayed. What if you delayed? You delayed. You delayed. What if you delayed? And it'll go backwards and forwards like this. You delayed. Did I delay? Did I delay? No, I didn't delay. I would never delay. I would never accept kufr for myself. If I was upon kufr, I would immediately repent of it and say the shahadatain. Shaitan goes on, what if you delayed? Okay, maybe you didn't, but what if you delayed? What if? And then again, you delayed. Until the person now is panicking, did I maybe accept for myself to be on kufr without saying a testification of faith? What if? Until the person's now, maybe their heart is in their throat. They've been stressing now for maybe hours. Maybe they've not slept properly. Maybe this cycle that I've just talked about over this 5-10 minutes, it might go on with them for like 24 hours. They try to blank it out. It comes back to them and they engage it. They say, I delayed. No, I didn't delay. Let me say a testification of faith. Actually, no, I shouldn't have taken a testification of faith there because actually it wasn't from me. It wasn't, me doubting about something to do with Islam, or maybe this was just a was-Wās. I shouldn't have said it. Actually, but I did say it now. Therefore, I called myself a kafir. And I shouldn't have done that. Then I take another testification of faith. Then, as I said, it comes back and says, no, actually, you are right to say the first testification of faith. And whatever, I'm even lost in whichever level of detail we are at. You start to doubt about a testification of faith. Is it kufr? Is it not kufr? And you end up in a mess, a panic-stricken mess, in which the person has usually spent hours without really any benefit. It might have even impacted upon their sleep. Either it gets you to doubt about a religious judgment. These are there's about 3 common things that it uses again and again. About a religious judgment. Did you doubt about it? And what are the consequences of doubting about that issue? I've given you the general religious rule there. One of us does not doubt about something you can know from the intellect. Okay, that is a part of the issues of belief. Like the fact that Allah knows about everything. Okay? And nor do you doubt about what's mentioned in the testifications of faith, i.e., that there is no creator except for Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the prophet and messenger of Allah. This is the basic belief of every Muslim. But as I said, it will start to try to make you doubt about other matters in the religion, to try to make you think that you doubted about Islam itself. This is one method that the Qareen uses. The other one is, did you delay saying the Shahada? If you did, it says to you, this in itself is kufr. And the third one is, did you recite it properly or not? When you said the words, did you say Allah properly or not? And the person, yes, I did. What if you didn't? No, I did. What if you didn't? What if you didn't? I think you didn't. What if you didn't? And then the person again panic. What if I've not repented properly? Then the person says it again. Qareen says, no, you said it properly. Why did you say a second time? Did you judge yourself to be a kafir? You called yourself a kafir whilst you said a valid testification of faith. And then it goes again. You called yourself a kafir by taking that testification of faith. And the person then panics again. Say it again. Did you recite it properly? Did you delay it? Did you doubt? Between these 3 issues usually. Doubt, not doubt, doubt, not doubt. Maybe you doubted. What if you doubted? What if you delayed? Did you delay? Did you delay? Maybe you delayed. What if you delayed? And the third one, did you recite it properly or not? I don't think you recite. What if you didn't recite it properly or not? Again, what if? And the person panics. In all of these issues, he's getting you more and more agitated and worked up, sensitized to his game. There are several things to help yourself deal with this issue. I'm going to get to there are several ways. Any one of them actually would be sufficient to stop all of this. But I'm going to go through several of them. You put them together, it makes that defense against the whisperings of the shaitan much more, if you like, stronger. First thing to think about is that you are not a mufti. Okay? You are not a scholar that needs to be deducing judgments. Either you know the judgment or you don't. If you don't try to put yourself in a position as though you need to deduce the judgment to a particular matter. Do not pass, therefore, judgments upon yourself, just like you should not be passing judgment upon others. Do not spend your time deliberating, i.e., thinking about religious issues in your mind. What would be the case that I talked about is a bit more of a simple level case, actually. There's a slight other variation of that certain people who are affected by was-wās fall into. And that is, and it is related to this, things that they don't know, like the arkan of the prayer. Most people who've learned basic knowledge, they will know, for example, the answer is such and such. There's a slight variation of that, which is where the shaitan, what it does is, with the person, it says, what is the judgment made about such and such case? And then what if you did this? How does that change the judgment? And what about this and this? Some people, they think themselves to be clever, and this is a good thing. Let me just figure out questions, question upon question. We mentioned in last week's lesson, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, actually it is something disliked to ask a lot of questions. Some people, they do this sitting and thinking about this issue in their mind. I wonder what would be the judgment here, and I wonder what would be the judgment there, and so on else. That's how it starts for them. Then thereafter, shaitan starts to come to them and says, well, what if this is not the judgment? And what if you've doubted about something? And what if you doubted about something to do with the religion? And what if you've then delayed? And what if you've not said the testification of faith properly? And it goes like that. It might start with something where a person starts to think of new questions or doubts about something that they learned previously. Critical in this is, as I said, you are not a mufti. You don't need to even spend time thinking, I wonder what the judgment would be. You don't need to go there. Rather, you learn to stop and not pursue certain lines of questioning. Don't sit there speaking to yourself. This is something that should be easy to do. Don't sit there speaking to yourself, engaging in discussions with yourself, whether with your own, let's say, mental processes, whether on the back of a khatir, whether with shaitan. Even if it's not with shaitan, generally speaking, don't sit there dwelling upon things. I wonder what if I said this or did that, or I wonder what the judgment would be, and. Some of that might be coming from yourself. Some of it from shaitan. Don't open this door. This is not how one learns religious knowledge in general. Don't engage in these discussions. Soon as you start to open those doors, you will give shaitan opportunities. Sometimes a question comes to you and you don't know the answer, and it suddenly comes to your mind. Stop. Put it to the back of your mind and leave it there. Just leave it there. When you learn more, hopefully some of these questions that you had in the back of your mind, they will get answered. Don't dwell upon them. When you start to dwell upon them, one of the things shaitan is now going to hit you with is, what if you doubted? What if you delayed? What if? And it can then get very difficult to not feel anxiety, not feel anxious, not to then start to engage the shaitan, because he will remind you about the consequences, and he doesn't want what's good for you. He doesn't want you to have the good ending, but he will use your panic and fear against you. So don't open up this door. If it opens, learn how to close it immediately without it persisting. Learn to stop and not pursue certain lines of questioning. Put them to the back of your mind. When you learn more, inshallah, your questions will be answered. If shaitan tries to panic you, whatever you have in your heart firmly, whatever Allah has willed to be shall be. If Allah has eternally willed for me to die as a believer, I will die as a believer. No one can change that. If Allah has willed for me to die as a kafir, I'm going to die as a kafir. Nobody can change that. The way to deal with the issue is not this way of what if, perhaps, maybe. This is not the way. That's not the way. That way pretty much always ends in a bad, if you like, way, in a bad endpoint. If you are really in a situation where you are thinking, maybe I've fallen into kufr, then really you need to go and review the basic knowledge again. Many times that's what it goes back to review the basic religious knowledge. And it is a fact, we will die and there will be still questions that we did not get to ask and did not get their answers. Where does this even stop? Focus on understanding what you really need to understand most importantly, and stick at that. Many of these other issues that come to a person's mind, put them to the back of your mind. This will resolve a lot of issues. And also to emphasize, not every doubting is kufr. Okay? Not every doubting is kufr. Doubting about the basic meaning of the testification of faith, what's considered as the basic meaning or what's related to the basic meaning, that is kufr. Which one among us, though, would doubt about the existence of Allah, or the fact that Allah knows everything, is powerful over everything? Some people who are in this state of situation of panic and fear, if you were to say to one of them, if somebody was to give you £1 million to doubt about the existence of God, would you do it? They go, no. So look how certain you are. You don't even answer it with a single no. It's like 4 or 5 no's. So you're certain. So you're not doubting about one of the fundamentals in the religion. Don't allow shaitan to engage you, get you panicked out, and to start to make you think as though you've doubted about something that is a fundamental of the religion, that equates to doubting about the truthfulness of Islam. So, in brief and in summary on this point, one needs to learn a certain basic religious knowledge and then implement it. And if certain things come to your mind beyond those basics, put them to the back of your mind. Don't dwell upon them. Thereafter, put effort to learn more, to understand more of what you already learned, and go on this basis. Otherwise, the Qareen is going to play games with you and it's going to destroy you. It's going to destroy you. Engaging with it, usually there is one winner in that, and it's not you. The way to defeat it is to not play its game. This is a critical issue. Don't dwell upon it. Don't engage it. Desist from all of that. If you feel anxiety whilst you're trying to ignore it, then refer to the fact that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, you are not accountable for the sudden spontaneous thoughts that you get or the whisperings of the devil. And thereafter, remind yourself of the fact that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to teach his daughters the statement, "Ma sha Allahu kan, wa ma lam yasha lam yakun." Whatever Allah has willed to be shall be. Whatever Allah has willed to be shall be. If there is that anxiety that you find coming to your heart and shaitan's trying to engage you in a discussion of the what if game, okay, he might say, look, if you doubt and you die like this and you don't engage the Qareen, you're going to die upon kufr. Okay, so he's trying to get you panicked again. Don't respond. Don't respond. Don't even start to go like this. Try to practice being very relaxed. I'm not giving anything away in your facial expressions and your body language. When he knows that you are like closing your eyes and going like this because he's whispering at you, he'll usually do it more. What you can do to relax yourself is busy yourself with other things that are beneficial. Whatever you are doing, if you're praying, concentrate on the meanings of the prayer, of what you are reciting. Busy yourself with other things. Just continue doing things as though that whispering was not taking place. If you need to, okay, you remind yourself about this statement to relax yourself. And if need be, you say it whilst thinking about its meaning. This helps deal with the anxiety. Now, with regards to this issue, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gave us some additional tools. Imam Muslim, for example, narrated in his Sahih, in his authentic collection of the sayings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, giving an example similar to what we've talked about, like a case scenario, and then he mentioned what to do with it. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yati shaytanu ahadakum fayaqul, the shaitan of one of you would come to you and whisper to you, man khalaqa kadha, who created this? Man khalaqa kadha, who created that? Like in one narration, it would say, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the shaitan would say to you, who created the earth? And the person says, Allah. Asking a question, you know the answer to it. Part of this is what it wants to engage you in the discussion. Then it would say, who created the skies? And you would say, Allah. So this is how it goes. Who created this? Who created that? Until eventually it gets you to a question that is kufr. And it's from shaitan. It's not from you. It's from shaitan. Some questions, they are kufr questions. They are in general what we call second principal questions. What does that mean? It means it's a question based upon a incorrect presumption. For example, if somebody was to say to one of us, what type of a donkey are you? Okay, if they say this question to us, what type of a donkey are you? And you say to them, how dare you say that? Yes, I'm only asking a question. I'm just I'm inquiring. Really, that question is not just a simple first principle question where you're just wanting to know about something. Rather, that person is actually saying something. They're saying, you are a donkey, and I now want to know which type of donkey you are. Isn't it? When they say, what type of a donkey? What type of an animal are you? They're saying, you are an animal, and I want to know which type of animal are you. If you say about a person, where are you right now? In essence, they are saying, you are in a place, and I want to know in which place you are located, limited, residing, dwelling, staying. Isn't it? If you say certain things like that about Allah, like if somebody said, how many sons does God have? Or if they said, in which place is God? Where is God? Physically, in which place is God? Or if they said, who created God? They are saying in that statement, God is created and I want to know who created him. And this is kufr. So in this particular narration, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, the shaitan would say, who created this? And the person answers, who created that? And the person answers, until eventually shaitan says, man khalaqa rabbak? Who created your Rabb? Who created Allah? That's what shaitan would say. Look what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam then said, you respond with. None of this, second principle question, and you're asking me this, and this is a kufr question, and you should not ask me a kufr question, okay? Or shaitan, I know this is from you, okay? And there's no engagement in dialogue. That's just background knowledge that I gave to you to help you understand this issue. Look what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, okay? فَإِذَا بَلَغَهُ, if this happens to you, it reaches this situation, فَلْيَسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ وَلْيَنْتَهِ. Two things. This destroy and annihilate the Qareen. Annihilate him. Even if he comes back at you again and you go back to this, he comes back a third time or a fourth time. He's like hitting a wall, okay, that he found shut. And he's scaring you from the outside. It's like, or let's say he's hitting a door. Better take that as a better example, analogy. He hits this door and he finds it locked. And it's solidly locked. And he said, you better open that door up, or else and then he comes and hits it again. The reality is he can hit it 50 times. You lock it with what the Prophet ﷺ taught us to keep it locked with, he ain't getting in. And usually he's not going to try again because he gets damaged each time he tries and you respond back with what the Prophet ﷺ taught. You don't need to panic on this issue. Don't need to allow yourself to start to dwell and start to think on it, thinking this is the way that you will get safety. This is not the way that you get safety. Okay? Dwelling upon it, what if, what if, what if, what if? This is not the way that you will get safety. The Prophet ﷺ knows better. He could have taught us how to give some intellectual proofs and say, look, well, this is like a second principle question, and there's this detail, and this detail, and this detail, and this detail, and the answer to shaitan is this and this and this. He didn't. He said, if it gets to this state, فَلْيَسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ, then seek the protection of Allah. وَلْيَنْتَهْ, and stop. That's it, stop. There isn't anything else further. Stop at that. There is more than one statement that you can use so as to seek the protection of Allah from shaitan. The most famous is what we call usually the isti'adha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Okay, أعوذ بالله. I seek the protection of Allah. من الشيطان, from shaitan. That is his harm. Because ultimately, what is he? Just another creature like us. From his harm and his fitna. Who is ar-rajim, who is mal'oon, who is damned, who is cursed, whose way is rejected. I seek the protection of Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the creator of everyone and everything, the one who knows about everything, who hears everything, the one that we are all in need of, the one that needs none, the one that has specified everything to occur, the one by his will there are winners and there are losers, the one that we rely upon in all of our states and situations. When you do this with the correct belief, you say this statement, it's like you smack shaitan. It hits him. It causes him pain. He might try a second time and a third time. Usually, he's been playing with people from a young age, and he'll rely upon that. Your sensitized state. When we were young, many of us, shaitan played with us to get this fear instilled within us, to also then see our reactions, to play this game, to waste our time, to make us do things that are in contradiction with the religion. I'll give you some common examples. One common example is there is something behind you. There is something behind you. There is someone behind you. What if? And you start to feel the panic. And there's nothing behind you. But shaitan tries to scare you like that. Whatever God has willed to be shall be. Even if there was a lion behind you. If God has eternally willed to protect you, that lion is not even going to harm you. You remember the story of the lions, Israfil and Prophet Ibrahim. That Kafir king who wanted to kill Prophet Ibrahim, what did he do? He starved 2 lions. Okay? He starved 2 lions, and then he threw Prophet Ibrahim in front of them. But those 2 lions, by the power of Allah, they approached him and they lowered their heads out of respect for him. They did not eat him, even though they were starving. For us, think about it. We're not even in a country like that, where suddenly lions come upon you. Most of the time, like, okay, I'm at home, or I'm out on the street. I don't need to look behind me. What if there's something behind you? What if there's something behind? What if? Might be said, whatever. Don't need to think about that. Whatever Allah has willed to be shall be. Don't let it panic you out like this. Another one that it will play on is things to do with the dark. Fear around dark, to generate anxiety within a person. Darkness is a creation of Allah. Just like light is a body, darkness is a body. Allah created each of these 2 bodies, these 2 creations. What am I worried about? What if something happens in the dark? Whatever Allah has willed to be shall be. In the norm, what is going to happen to me in the dark? Think about it. The light is off. I'm in my bedroom. What usually happens when you're in your bed, like you're lying, like what's going to happen? Sometimes people, they watch cartoons or movies, unfortunately, that have scared them about certain issues at a certain age. Sometimes other than that. Another one, common. You're walking along and the shaitan says, if you walk on the lines, you know, like you have flagstones. If you walk on the lines, like something bad's going to happen. What bad? Something bad's going to happen. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. What if it does? Look, what does it take from you? Just don't walk on the lines. That's how we'll go with you. What does it take? It doesn't take anything. Just walk in between where the lines are. This is all a process by which he's trying to build into you this fearful state and sensitizing you to his whispers. One person was telling me when they were younger, the one that they would get is they're walking along and shaitan would whisper to them, that lamppost that you just walked past, if you don't go back and touch it, your mom is going to die. He tries to resist it, and they go, but just do it. It's just there. Just go do it. What does it take from you? What if your mom dies? Because of, you're young. You're 7, 6, 7, 8 years old or whatever. You don't want your mom to die. But he's building you up with his game. That he's going to play on when you're even older. When you're sensitized and like this. What if? What if? So the person that I'd walk, I try to resist it, but then it's like, I don't want my mom to die. It's okay, it's not a big deal. Let me just go touch the lamppost. So he goes back. But that's it. You've engaged it. You've entered into its game. And he'll play that game with you through your childhood into your adulthood. Just try to change some of the scenarios. Make you worried about your own health or the health of your children or about something else to do with your Islam and your Iman. just to try to keep you constantly on edge, wasting your time, and sometimes making you actually say and do things that are against the religion. We are not obligated to answer every single question. Just to expand upon this issue now from another point of view. We are not obligated to answer every single question that someone asks from us. Even if they say that they just want to learn and we know the answer. Sometimes people would ask Sheikh Abdullah some questions and he'd say, not right now, later. You'll get the answer to this question later. Right now, focus on what you need to know for now. And he knew the answer. And from our perspective, we want to learn more. I'm emphasizing that you don't need to be answering all questions that come to your mind. Either yourself, by being like a bit of a mufti, to try to deduce and reflect and think, and what about this case, and what about that case, and wonder what the judgment would be here, and I wonder what would the... Stop all of that. Don't talk to yourself. Don't, it might be said, deliberate upon these issues like thinking and deducing and reflecting. Don't do any of that. Stop it all. Especially if you are a person who gets afflicted by was-wās in this way. The mujtahid, their situation is different. They reflect and they think and they deduce and they ponder to deduce and to extract religious judgments. We are not in that situation. We are not obligated to answer every question that comes to our minds. Whether that question came spontaneously or through the whispering of a devil. Even if we know the answer, even if we know the answer, I'm just not going to go into it. It's going to park in the back of my mind. But what if you are therefore doubting? As I said, he'll ask you things like, I give that example before. Who created the earth? The Prophet ﷺ gave this as an explicit example of questions from shaitan. Who created the earth? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I know the answer. I don't need to answer. I don't need to answer. Don't go with it. You do not need to answer every question that comes to your mind, to yourself. Don't go with it. Shaitan was, oh, are you doubting? Why don't you answer me? Why are you not answering? Don't you know who created the earth? You don't know? I don't need to even say, I know, but I'm not answering you. I don't need to go there. This is not ignoring. I'm engaging then in conversation with that shaitan, who is not interested in knowing the answer to who created the earth. He wants to take me somewhere else. I don't need to reaffirm for myself, I know who created the earth. Come on, really? Really? Don't need to go there. Busy yourself with other beneficial things. Learning religious knowledge, teaching religious knowledge, making azkar. But what if you... why are you not answering? Shaitan might say, why are you not answering? Just answer it. Simple question. Come on, you don't know the answer? Who created the earth? Don't go with it. If you need to, stop and say the isti'adha. And you'll find that type of even questioning stops. You don't need to answer it even at that stage. Before it takes you then, as I said, to the second one. Then eventually, okay, Allah created the earth. Just stop at that now. Who created the sky? Who created the sky? Who created the sky? And why are you not answering? Why are you not answering? Are you doubting? Are you doubting? So why do you answer it? Until you then answer. And then he's got you engaged in a conversation. Until eventually he starts to take you somewhere else. From cases that you know to cases that maybe you don't know how to answer. Don't be speaking to yourself and deliberating. Practice this issue. Get out of a habit of discussing things with yourself like this. The mufti needs to do that. They do ijtihad. They reflect, they ponder. They say, okay, there is this case and there is this case. And because of that case, the judgment would be here. But actually, there is also another. I don't need to go through all of that. Keep it simple. Accept yourself, it might be said, as a simple person in a simple situation. I acquire religious knowledge. I transmit what I've learned. Simple. Don't go into these dialogues with yourself and pondering and reflecting and opening up issues where shaitan, he wants to take you somewhere. Don't engage him. When a malicious person comes to harm you, somebody prank calls you, right? If you ignore them, usually they will stop very quickly because they'll only hear their own whisper. You should not want to engage them in conversation, but rather you ignore them. Likewise, the same with the Qareen. You ignore. If you need to do a bit more, what is it? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Like that. The isti'adha. That's what you go back to. So the way to defeat the Qareen is to not play its game. Don't respond to it. Don't try to debate it. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam knows better than us. He knows the fitna of the Qareen. And he said, stop. Say the isti'adha. Stop. That's what he said. Even about ad-Dajjal. He said in the future, when ad-Dajjal appears, don't go to him. Keep away from him. Seek the protection of Allah from his fitna. He said, despite this, there would be some people in the future who would say, we'll show him. Believers, Muslims. Rather than following the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, say, no, I know, I'm going to show him. Let me go to him and expose him. Whatever they might be thinking, we'll use this proof or that proof. I'll show Dajjal. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said they would go to him and they would fall victim to his fitna. They would become his followers. Why not do simple? Don't be humble, be sincere. Follow what he came with. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why do you want to go another way? Stop, ignore. Say the isti'adha. This is the way that will make you strong and shaitan weak. Protect yourself with what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught. By that you would be strong and safe. Don't weaken yourself by doing what shaitan wants you to do. Even if he says to you things like, if you don't respond to me, then this would be kufr. Whatever he tries to come at you with, something bad might happen, this might happen, don't need to go into any of that. Whatever Allah has willed to be shall be. This is it. Make these azkar, make dua to Allah to protect you, and go back to the isti'adha time and time again. Eventually he will become weak. In the early phases, because he's been playing this issue with you for years, some of us, we incline towards anxiety, fear, and panic. Things that he instilled within us, as I said, fear of something's behind me, right? And I used to get plenty of that in my childhood. Up until now, sometimes in my adulthood, I would get it, and I get a slight sensation in my heart of like a type of like uneasiness. Up until now, what if that is? I know, but like, what if somebody wants to stab you? What if? And And for myself, having learned this particular knowledge, if there are 1,000 people ready to stab me from behind me, okay, if Allah has willed that to occur, it's going to occur. And if Allah has eternally willed for me to be protected, if 1,000 of them come and try to stab me, there ain't nothing going to happen to me. I refuse to engage it and start to go like that. What does it harm you? Just look over your shoulder, then you'll be relaxed. If there's nothing, then just look. You'll feel relaxed. He is engaging you. I don't need to go there. In other words, I know that, am I encouraged regularly to be going like this? Is that something that the Prophet ﷺ told me to do? The Messenger of Allah ﷺ, he taught us what will benefit us for this life and in the hereafter. He used to teach the young and the old. There was a child once that was sitting eating with him, and the child didn't know how to eat properly. So he said to the child, "Oh young boy, listen to me. I'll teach you how to eat. Among the things, and you eat with these 3 digits, and you eat from the food that is closest to you, and you sit up. You don't lean on something whilst eating. All of these things are beneficial." The Prophet ﷺ, he would not have left this issue had it been something that we need to do, regularly checking over our shoulders or dwelling upon the darkness and the like. Whatever Allah has willed to be shall be. That's what you need to remind yourself about. Make this dhikr a lot. Along with it, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Nobody has the power to do good except if Allah enables them to do that, helps them in doing that. And no one can avoid the sins except if Allah protects them from that. Say that and reflect upon its meaning. Say that a lot. Say it a lot. Reflect upon its meaning. Reflect upon and say a lot, La ilaha illallah. There is no creator except for Allah. Allah created me and Allah created that which I do. Allah created the shaitans and that which they do. Allah created all of the harmful beings and that harm that they could potentially do. Reflect upon that. Say, Ma sha Allahu kan, wa ma lam yasha lam yakun, a lot. Reflect upon its meanings. Whatever Allah has willed to be, shall be. Make the dua and supplication and dhikr. Ya hayyu ya qayyum, bi rahmatika astaghith, aslih li sha'ni kullah, wa la takilni ila nafsi tarfata ayn. Ask for Allah's help by His honorable names. Oh Allah, I need your help with every moment that goes by. Say these statements, reflect upon them. They are beneficial. As for if this khabith, this malicious, nasty, conniving, weak creature known as the Qareen does by way of his games, it's like, what they say, I'll say the isti'adha. Look what happens by it. I get reward. I get reward, and I get stronger, and he gets weaker. And that's it. I don't respond. Even if I know the answer, I don't respond. What about if I don't know the answer? Then even more so, I shouldn't be dwelling upon it. Even more so, I shouldn't be dwelling upon it. Regardless of what I said, if he says, but why are you not answering? Just answer it. What harm does it do to answer you? Just answer it. Are you doubting? Maybe you're doubting. That's why you're not answering me. That's why you're not, I don't need to go. And don't say, no. That's not why I'm not answering you. I'm just going to ignore you. This is not ignoring now. This is speaking to shaitan. That's not what the Prophet ﷺ said. He said 2 things. Say a particular statement and stop at that. Say a particular statement and stop at that. That's it. Stick to saying the statements that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught. Don't answer it. Even if you know the answer, don't answer it. Don't engage it. Don't persist with it. Don't start to dwell upon it. If it's trying to make you panicked out, repeatedly say those statements that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam encouraged us to say. Stop at that. You will find that eventually it will stop. It will stop. It will go away. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, it will go away. I'm going to talk about the other hadith that talks about it going away next week. But I'm giving you the glad tidings of it. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, these things will go away. If you don't follow what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with and his advice, then you've got nobody to blame but yourself. That fear, that panic attacks, that anxiety, that sleepless nights, that uneasiness, day and night, that time that is wasted, the judgments that you find yourself having to then deal with. You are to blame yourself for that. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came for goodness for our dunya and our akhirah. Go back to what he came with. Even with children, I would say to them, don't be scared of the dark. Whatever God has willed to be shall be. Remind them about that regularly. Don't be afraid of being by yourself. Rely upon Allah. Give them examples like about Prophet Ibrahim and other examples like that. He was thrown into the fire and there was lions and there was this and this. Tell them those examples. Make their hearts strong. Some parents, their children say, Mama, Daddy, don't turn off the light. Leave the light on. Please leave the light on. Don't play to these fears. Then if it means that they've got worked up, do it in a stage-wise way. And maybe put a very weak light on. Okay? Sometimes you say no. And maybe you might do this over 2 days. I'm not saying weeks. And insist you need to rely upon Allah. If you feel scared, then say this statement. Say this statement. Even if somebody wants to harm you, they wouldn't be able to. Allahu Rabbi la ushriku bihi shay'a. Statements like this. Hajj Hadi told us that once they were stopped at a checkpoint and they were checking people's documents. I think he said, I didn't have the necessary document with me. He said they came, they asked everybody in the car for the documents. They didn't ask him anything. And he says, though they couldn't see him, he said. Brother, afterwards, he said, how come they didn't even look at you? He said, Alhamdulillah, I recited what Shaykh taught me. Shaykh Abdullah taught. There are plenty of azkar that you can recite. How many times I've been in some situations where I'm afraid of something, and like this, something, you recite this statement, and immediately with my eyes, I've seen things change in front of me, in front of my very eyes. That harm that was coming straight at you, and it just suddenly went away. You need to teach your children that. Otherwise, shaitan's gonna make them get into this panicked, anxious state, and the was-wās is gonna be even more damaging to them as they grow up. And Allah, the Exalted, knows best. La ilaha illallah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Barakallah.